Hello, everybody. Nigeria and around the world.
Hi.
So welcome to the entrepreneurial panel, where we're going to explore the creative industry in Nigeria. And it's the first time we've focused on that topic, just because it's such an amazing space. We found out when we were researching and talking with our fellow planners on the Nigerian team. And Myriam and I, our co-hosts, I'll just introduce myself, but Myriam has done a little bit of research into creative industry. She's going to tell you about that in a second. So I am on the founding board of Ambitious Africa. I was born in Kenya and lived in different African countries, and I'm also a startup entrepreneur. So it's fantastic to be here. So I'm going to pass over to Myriam now, and she will give you a little introduction to herself and some of the stats around the creative industry in Nigeria.
All right, thanks, Richard, and welcome everybody, and good afternoon to everyone. And my name is Myriam Munezero, and I'm the chairperson of a nonprofit organization here in Finland. And our organization also works towards connecting Finland, especially the Nordics and African countries. So it was a very good opportunity to be a partner to this Ambitious Africa project. And it's especially exciting for me to be on this panel discussion, moderating this discussion on the entrepreneurship in the creative industry. So Nigeria is one of the, I would say, one of the biggest players in terms of in the creative space on the African continent. And especially with the increase in mobile devices and internet access, this is also one of the sectors that has seen such a boom in terms of revenue and audiences. There was a report published by PricewaterhouseCoopers in Nigeria in 2018 that was showing that, for instance, the entertainment and media sector or industry witnessed a 25.5% growth. And this amounted to about $3.8 billion US. So it's quite a big boost in that industry as well. And then Nollywood, as many of you might know already, is the third largest film producer after Hollywood and Bollywood. And then we have the music industry, which has also seen a boom in, we have artists like Tiwa Savage, Mr. Easy, Burna Boy, Davido, Wizkid, who are all taking Nigerian music and Afrobeats across or beyond the shores of Africa. And we have even the comedy industry as well that is seeing YouTube views of more than 1 million sort of views for some of the videos. And we have then the fashion industry and the textiles, apparels, which has also seen an average growth of 17% since 2010. And these are just some of the highlights of the creative industry. We haven't even gone into literature and other sectors that are in the creative field. So I'm very excited to be part of this panel and looking forward to learning a lot from our great panelists here.
Thank you, Myriam. Actually, when she sent me those statistics, I just happened to be looking at the very latest edition of Vogue, and Mr. Easy has a prominent feature here. So Nigerian creative industry really is getting global attention.
Yeah.
I would just like to go to each of the panelists now, because I think we think it's much better, easier for people to remember who you are if you introduce yourselves. And if you could just tell like one or two key things that you've done so that people can remember you, starting with Blessing.
Hello, everybody. My name is Blessing from Nigeria. Okay, Blessing, I started the first co-working space and first creative accelerator in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria, supporting the fashion value chain end to end. So that is what I've done. And a little bit about myself. I started selling software after I graduated. I went into business development, technical sales, and all that. Before I went there during the boom of co-working spaces, everybody doing tech spaces. I decided to do a niche for the creatives and the fashion designers in Nigeria, looking that we are getting attention. And that's basically me.
Fantastic to have you here, Blessing. Blessing was introduced by a friend of mine at CC Hub, Francis. It was fantastic to have that recommendation. How about Pirjo?
Hello, so my name is Pirjo and I'm originally from Helsinki, Finland, but at the moment I'm at the countryside by the Päijänne Lake in the middle of the woods, so to speak. And I've been in a part of the creative industries plus 25 years. I'm the other founder of a Finnish fashion label called Ivana Helsinki, which still today is the only Scandinavian brand that has been accepted to the official Fashion Week show calendars, both in New York as well as in Paris Fashion Weeks. So I have a very strong background in fashion. I also teach fashion students here in Finland in the universities. And then I've been a producer for several documentary films as well as TV series for the Finnish TV channels. So I'm very much keen and also backgrounded and rooted in the film industry as well.
Fantastic. I've known Pirjo has been inspiration to me ever since I came to Finland, because I used to live near her office, and it was always amazing their creative and imaginative marketing they used to do for their Ivana Helsinki brand. And Zainab, if I say that correctly.
Yes.
Soon find out.
Hello, I'm Zainab Ashadu. I am the creative director of the brand Zashadu. We are a leather accessories brand, a heritage brand. Work out of they create all the pieces and source all the materials from Nigeria. The brand has been in existence for 10 years, since 2010. And we are stocked in a number of boutique around the world. We brand completely organic and it's kind of cult status. Don't do any kind of traditional marketing media. It's been going very well. It's been very challenging, but it's also been very, very. We've learned things, and we are affecting the kind of from the ground up. So that's in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Myriam actually found you in some research, and it's great that you have this later on in the panel talk. We're going to talk about your experience of coming from Nigeria to UK and to Nigeria and back. I think that's going to be really interesting as well. So I'll hand over to you, Myriam. Take a next bit.
Yeah, so it was more like sort of to explore with our panelists here, looking at the conditions we are, the situation the world has found itself in terms of the COVID-19 pandemic. What are some of the positive and challenging things you're currently dealing with, especially in looking at your work in the creative sectors? Perhaps Blessing could go first, and then maybe Pirjo and Zainab. Putting you on the spot each time.
Feel free to jump in as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so being that I work with fashion designers, and like what Zainab is doing, I work with young bag makers, jewelry makers, and all that. So one of the challenges they are facing, and we are facing actually, is that there is nobody buying. But I happen to have some information about the sales of what is selling and what are the things people are looking online, going by my IT background, and I understand analytics and all that. So I keep telling them, I said, okay, when people are not buying this, why don't we look at what people are willing to buy and start making those things? So I got to, and we have to, okay, how do we approach hospital to do hospital scrubs? How do we start selling face masks? Okay, what kind of bags people actually want to buy now that we are not going out? Zainab, I don't know your experience, but some of my young designers are not selling their bag any longer. And people that are doing jewelry, what can we do? So we started doing, okay, can you collaborate with this designer that's into making a simple clothing that you can wear at home and maybe accessorize it with a jewelry so that people can see how they can dress while having Zoom meetings and all that. So it has not been an easy one, because we are not seeing the turnover of people coming to use the space as we used to have. We don't have full house, and things have not been, but we are trying to leverage on technology to see how we can, as much as possible, make money, stay afloat, and support our ecosystem.
That's great to hear. I think every true entrepreneur knows how to adapt and shift to where the demand is. perhaps then maybe Zainab, since Blessing sort of mentioned how you're coping, maybe you can tell us a little bit, and then Pirjo could go next.
No. Yes, very similar to what we talked about. Definitely the market came to a standstill, came to a halt. And for me, us, I decided to, because we're a brand, we're very particular brand in the sense that we have reach and we have a voice, and people look up to what we do and where we stand in the market and all of that. I knew it was a very delicate position to be in, and I had to be very careful not to allow panic to set in. So I used it as an opportunity to really kind of turn back inwards and inside of the business and have the space to breathe and see what we needed to do. Because when you're in this kind of hamster wheel, you barely have time to stop and see where the leaks are, see what we can do better, especially in a country like this, in a place like Nigeria that's so bustling all the time. So it was a break to look and to fortify ourselves, because COVID is not going to last forever. We're going to come back and we're going to come back to business. So I knew it was a very important time and like a window of hope actually to look in. I also decided to keep the morale up of our staff, and conducted trainings and kind of brought everybody together to see how we can together to create what were the ideas and all of that. I have to be with myself and my brand. This is a grown brand. This is a different feel from like a global brand in that way. So I have the luxury to create and to move and to these things to sort of push me in that. And the people who have always bought and who are our supporters, that's the language they use to bring from us. So I use the opportunity to kind of connect in that with these people. And that so far that has paid off. So when the COVID became kind of something that we were more adapted to, realizing that we had to live with the thing, the selling was able to come back in a soft way, and people were very receptive to it. And so with that, but definitely there have been hits in terms of like income, in terms of what you're used to getting, but we just had to be creative with that hit, take that hit, and to fortify the business, better. You have to think about having something to fall back on in terms of your business, because I think the whole world is being used to running like from A to B to B to C all the time, and it's like there isn't any kind of everything stops and everything falls up. And finding that out just makes you think of like your mother's wisdom or your grandmother's wisdom, how really applicable things are for today's modern world.
So you found a few good, or you use the time in a way to sort of internalize some things and think and see how you can adapt the business, and maybe use the time to build the team as well and learn new skills.
Yeah.
And Pirjo, how has been your experience?
Well, I think what I have seen in the role as an entrepreneur, and also being consulting and like feeling the market here in Finland and the Scandinavian brands, is that the companies and the brands are really acting now, which means that usually there is quite a long lead time. Like you plan, and then you set the goals, and then you wait and maybe do some research, and only after that you act. But now the COVID-19 has positively forced companies and brands to try out many things very fast, because it's a very uncertain era, and it's an era that nobody has kind of like forecasted. We don't know what comes out of this. So the good thing has been that creative companies and fashion companies have been forced to try out different things in a very fast-paced moving scenario. And also, I think because the structures have changed and many of the B2B channels are really full of stuff and items and sellable things, and some of them have even gone out of business. So many brands are now kind of like skipping the B2B system completely, and they're going from the company directly to the consumer, to their customers. And that actually, what both of you, Blessing and Zainab, you mentioned, was that you have a more better in-depth feel of your clients and customers. What do they really want? What do they really need? And then you can take your creativity and your skills, you know, to create something interesting and something that people really want to buy and they need to buy. And I think that's always kind of like the magic of fashion. At the same time, you cannot get all the information from the people, because then you are not a designer or a creator anymore, because you are the one who is responsible for the wow effect. But now it's more based on some kind of a need, even though it might be a little bit ambiguous, you know, what the need is, but you probably get closer to realizing and producing items that people want to buy for.
That's a great point on that. And maybe just to elaborate more on that for Pirjo, or to ask for you to elaborate. In Finland, myself having stayed in Finland for about 11 years now, there's this sort of pride in buying or wearing things made by Finnish designers or made in Finland. How has that sort of attitude or take on things made in Finland, how has that helped you in your ability to sell to the Finnish audience or to Finnish customers? And how has it helped the Finnish fashion industry?
Well, I think there are different levels in that. And first of all, after now and during, however we want to see this COVID-19 era, there has been very strong movement called support your local, and not only in fashion, but in food, you know, and restaurants and all kinds of consumption. People want to support their local, their neighborhood restaurants, hairdressers, everybody who is kind of like in the neighborhood. So that's a whole completely new movement, even among the very young generation of consumers. But then from the older generation, there has been this belief that if it's made in Finland, it's better, even if it's not, you know. But there is like a positive way of nationalism in a way, and that's the historic echoes that the Finnish textile industry went kind of like almost bankrupt and out of business after the transition from Finland to Russia didn't exist anymore. So people wanted to support. That was another era of crisis after which we saw this support your local movement, and that existed. But I think no fashion brand can ever just rely on the fact that you are made in some country and you are selling to that market. You have to win the souls and the hearts of your customers by listening to them, or by offering them something that they cannot get from somewhere else. And it's not always like the physical manufacturing in a certain place, but it's kind of like more listening to the tone of voice and listening to the hearts of the people that whom you are going to sell, and then kind of like weaving it all together with the manufacturing or raw materials or some kind of a value proposition that you are making through your products that you are doing in fashion.
That's a very good point. And maybe to ask a similar question to Zainab and perhaps Blessing as well. What does made in Nigeria or made in Africa mean to Nigerians, and how does that affect sort of the attracting consumers to your brands that are made locally?
Okay, I'll go. Blessing doesn't want to go if you're okay with me going. Similar to previous speakers, I forget. Okay, Pirjo. I say Pirjo. Similar to what Pirjo said, there has been a growing sort of nationalism, at least when it comes to the creative sector, and we've seen that sort of pride grow with fashion, with music, with our entertainment industry. Having 10 years ago and being in, there definitely has growth upwards in appreciating made in Nigeria. Also, there's a responsibility on our part to educate. As Pirjo said, enough to just make it. That's not a reason enough for people to. There also have to be standards adhere to, and there also the idea that brand is, you know, looking as well, you know, being inspired from it, looking outwards, and also inspired from outside. So there is that, and also educate people that this and the skill set that we have, ways in which we create things and have things for centuries in Africa, is really valuable, and is what they also look for in other well-known brands, especially when it comes to our field with leather and creating by hand and all of that heritage. So there's been as well, and that side is very, very it's instantly gratifying, because you see when you explain to a client what you do and why it's important and the value, they instantly. So Made in Africa thing is a real blessing. It's something that has space and scope to grow. And because of COVID now, because they travel as much as they would to, they're forced to look inside and, okay, can I get this, you know, locally? And they find that they can. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think following on from that, I've been noticing in recent times, this is Vogue UK featuring fashion in West Africa generally, and I see those articles in the BBC and all over the place. So I think, Zainab, I'll just keep with you for a second. What do you think's driving the growing international interest in, in this case, African fashion, but obviously music and other things as well?
I think that there is a real earthiness to Africa, just in general, in our nature, in the way that we are very naturally comes across. And that's not the only reason. Not everybody vibrancy necessarily, but because the world has sort of become this sort of mass of things, where it's kind of one is everything seems very similar because of the let's say the mass media and the way that one luxury brand will speak exact language as another luxury brand. People all over the world. When I go to Europe, people are very excited about farmers market. People are very excited about buying things. That human connection is key. And having gone so far this way, people are wanting to come back this way to touch that human connection. And so with this kind of, I think African brand is that we can't quite place your hand on that it hasn't been refined too much. In the sense that, of course, you may still be making refined goods like we are, but in the way that you express yourself or the way that you communicate, the global is a word that I'm trying to find, but I don't have it. But like let's just say the mass media hasn't watered down the brand. There's an authenticity. That's what I say. There's that authenticity that comes through that people connect with and trying to get back to in themselves, in people around them. And I think oftentimes African culture offers that to many people. That's where the connection or the kind of love is created. That's what I think.
I think that makes a lot of sense, going back to what Myriam said in the intro, that I think the rise of the digital and social has made, because we all know that the story behind products and brands is getting ever more important, and the digital channels maybe allow people to see those stories from Nigeria in a way that they maybe didn't in the past, and see the authentic craftsmanship and all those positive things. I'm going to get a bit more technical now. I'm going to ask Blessing a question to you to start with. I'm in a real tech. I'm a retail tech startup founder. So I've been following what's happening in retail a lot around the globe. And I've noticed in recent times, there's some of the biggest, fastest growing global fashion brands many have become unicorns, like Warby Parker, designer glasses, Everlane, capsule wardrobe, and Allbirds sneakers. They've come out of this, what I would say, like very much a Silicon Valley startup model, like very much very focused on very niche products and using investment money to drive forward quickly. And it's very much in the D2C kind of space, direct to consumer space. So how is this kind of because I remember Zainab was organically, but how do you compare, because you're in a kind of incubator hub space, this kind of startup approach to building a fashion brand to building it organically?
Oh, okay, so if I understand, Richard, you are talking to me, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so so the question is, how do I understand retail consumer direct to consumer retail sales in terms of startup ecosystem? Okay, so what for the better part of what we've done in this space is this: every designer, every person, a creative person is creative, and all they want to do is sell. Okay, they need access to market, they need to talk to people, but they don't know how to go about it. And basically what we've been able to do is that for those that let us, we guide them using, my team and I guide them using maybe business training, using technology. First of all, we do the simplest thing. How do you present your sales on Instagram? Because we've been able to get more people to sell abroad through Instagram, their Instagram page. And we get to make sure that picture quality of whatever you post on your Instagram page is going to be very important. So it either makes or mar you. It's either you are selling using that picture or you are not selling. So we get to give them some education and some training on how to, be able to understand what brand how people perceive what branding is all about. Some of them don't understand, okay, why do I have to speak in a certain way online? Why do I have to, talk to my audience in this way? What kind of tone do I have to take in my communication plan? Some of them that we've met don't understand it. So we have to go through this process. Okay, when you want to build a global brand, you need to understand what happens in the global space. And you want people, you want to sell outside Nigeria, you want to sell to Nigerians, and you want them to see you like normal, international, pure kind of thing. You want them to be comfortable. You need to speak that language that they understand. So we need to start telling them, okay, you need to have a brand guide. When you are communicating on your Instagram, you need to have like this language and all that. So we do all those, from the basics before they even go to retail. So I'm happy to learn more about what you do with Pricetap, because we need to understand, okay, what people are doing online. Apart from what analytics can give us, we need to understand what these consumers of these brands, what they are doing online, how do we talk to them more, how do we interact? Because it's all about understanding. In fact, buying now is emotional buying. People buy from emotion, no longer because we need to appeal to those emotions. I want to understand that, and that's what we are trying to do with them. And
I think that's absolutely right what you were saying then, because this is my day-to-day running shoe from Ender in Kenya, and I think it's brilliant. They're a startup in Kenya, and they really used the tradition of running and the heritage of running in Kenya and created a fantastic Kickstarter brand that appealed to me on emotional, but also I could see through their marketing and their video, and they're making this is a quality product even before I bought it. So I think it was a combination of those two. Do you think that that a fashion startup brand should like Allbirds, that's woven sneaker thing, they just basically made the same shoe for I think for a couple of years, 3 years before they did anything else? Should they be really, really focused on a specific product, or is it possible to be broad?
No, for me, because it's a startup, you need to understand. So what I tell people is that we have to bootstrap on a shoestring. Is that we need to understand what is it that people want to buy, what is selling most, and just as simple as a white shirt. or a white gown with some Ankara might be one of the things your bestseller. So if that is what people are buying, do more of that. But you know, the fashion circle is have circles, and they have, like, you have to do a collection. But let something be your signature brand. Let them know you with something. Because if people know, oh, I can always get this with this person, they can always come back. So we encourage them to, as much as you are very creative, you want to show all the things you are doing, but let your audience know that this is what, if it's a shirt dress, that Ankara shirt dress, that's what we normally call some of them. If that's what we want people to know, have the competence, all the skills and everything. Let everything speak that language, so that they know this is what you are known for and you are good at it. Then you can now branch off. You can do other collections and do other, designs that, something to, but know that this is what you are being known for. I think that's what we keep selling. And for those that will do that for, they have been making good business.
I think that makes an awful lot of sense to me. I think it's perfect what you said, actually, because it leads directly what I would like to explore with Pirjo, is that I think there might be a similarity in some ways, or similarity in challenge, even between Finland, a tiny small country with just like 6 million, and Nigeria, I think, was 200 million or something I heard earlier, is that when we're competing in like a global marketplace, from a country that either is not well known for particular brands or is very small, like Finland, I've noticed in recent times, like one brand in Finland and called Myriam is a shoe brand, and they're very famous for these kind of bunny shoes and these lollipop shoes, and they really built a sort of global niche around those two iconic items. So Pirjo, I just wanted you to, is it because your brand that you founded, Ivana Helsinki, has a very distinctive style. Do you think it's absolutely necessary, if you want to stand out in globally, and you're coming from a country that's either small or doesn't have a history of fashion, to be very visually distinctive on the internet?
Well, I think the internet has changed so that we read the world without words, so we read it through pictures. So you have to have a very strong, like, visual identity, and you have to have even iconic in the sense of Ivana Helsinki. It has been some prints in the sense of Minna Parikka, the shoe designer that you just mentioned. It's the certain bunny ears that she always has on her shoes. So you have to start with something, and you have to kind of like continue and do it again and do it again, and maybe in different colors or different shapes or different, scaling. But you have to create something that is iconic and symbolic for your brand, so that people can remember and know that, okay, that's from that brand. Because again, branding is about sharing, and branding is about sharing with the people that you respect and you want to be consumer family. So people in the same consumer family can understand the value. Okay, those are the Minna Parikka bunny ear shoes, or okay, that's the Ivana Helsinki print. And it's about getting your own audience. And of course, depending the size of the company and how big you want to grow and what you want to conquer, you have to decide what's the size of the audience that you are speaking to. But I think I have to say that Finland, being not a fashion-oriented country at all, but being a very engineer-oriented country, we've always had the challenge of not to focus too much on the product, because the product is only a tool, or at least that's how I see it. The product is only a tool to offer something bigger or greater to the user, to the client. And there is a very good example in fashion coming from Finland, a company called Reima, which is actually in product offering. They are about kids' outdoor wear, Gore-Tex uniforms that you can wear in rainy days or in cold weather, or if it's very sunny, you have the IV protection and all that. And what they are offering is not all these great technical outdoor gears for your children, but they are actually offering a longer life for your child. That's their offer. And everyone who is a parent or has a child that they love is of course immediately listening, like, okay, you are giving me something that will make my child live longer. And it's because then people go outside and children want to play because it's nice to play and they can move freely and all that. And I think that's always very important to keep in mind and remember, like, what are you offering? You're not just offering a piece of a fabric with some zippers and buttons and, you know, some style, but what are you offering? Is it enjoyment or a possibility to express my own values or my habitus, or what is it? Because it's always a tool for something.
I think it's right. So ideally a
even
combination of something visually distinctive, but also a very distinctive message that applies to something greater. That's sort of a holy grail.
Exactly.
Zainab, how have you thought about these issues in terms of messaging and being distinctive?
Yes, I have. I agree with both Blessing and Pirjo. You do have to offer something. It's not just a bag, you know. And I think that started from me personally. It started with my own exploration with it. I was trying to communicate something. I was solving a problem. Each of the pieces that I have created have been as a result of trying to solve a problem. And then also because it's modeled on my life, or, you know, I'm the first person I made a bag for. What is it trying to do for me? How has that improved my very busy life? How does it make me feel? Does it make me feel armored? Does it bring up beauty that I have inside me inherently? When I look at this piece, does it reflect that to me? So there's a lot of that. And that's what keeps me as a designer engaged, because I'm primarily a designer. Even though I'm an entrepreneur, that's what keeps me. That's what has led me to that skill. So I have to keep that alive. But on the entrepreneurial side of things, absolutely, you need to, you know, people are listening. People are looking for people to lead them all the time. And people are attracted to things that are beautiful, that are well made. So if you have that platform, then you have to maximize it. In order to survive, you have to have a voice. You have your own distinct voice. You have to have your own distinct style so that people recognize you, as both Blessing and Pirjo have said. Yes, I agree with what they both have said, and I think that's the way it has to be. You have to hone in and really listen to that voice and hear it and feed it. Take in advice, but you have to have that fire burning inside of you in order not to get lost.
Perfect. Tap into your soul. I think that's a very good advice for anybody. What drives them. I just like to tell the audience, please feel free to write questions in the chat. We should have some time towards the end to answer any specific questions. And I'm going to hand over back to Myriam now.
Yes, yeah, thanks, Richard. So my next questions are mostly for Zainab and Blessing, and me being part of the nonprofit organization Think Africa, where we look at the empowerment of the African diaspora here. I wanted to ask maybe to Zainab first, since you grew up in Lagos and then you moved to London and went to universities there in the UK, what inspired you to come back to Nigeria?
Well, I split my time very even between both cities. I was born in London, moved to Lagos, moved back to London, then moved to Lagos. What inspired me to move back was really just a whim. I had no intention of moving from London. I was working, I was fine. I didn't have, my family also lived in the UK. So I didn't have this sort of like burning desire to go home because home was with me. I came to Lagos for a holiday, and just on a whim, this feeling, so this instantly just said, you need to come and live here. I could see energy, I could feel this sort of just this thing that I'm feeling in London and that I'm obviously to be tapped into. And so I just moved weeks. I had no plan. I just came and I just found my feet. So it's that effervescence of the combination of the content that made me want to be directly in line with that. I didn't want to come and go kind of heart after heart, I wanted to be in the middle of it, to allow that energy to instill. And I realized I needed to be inside for that to happen. So I moved.
Great. I think it would be good to have you in our future sessions as well, so that you can bring that energy to many of us diasporas here in Finland and inspire us to to do more with our countries back at home, back on the continent. Perhaps then to Blessing, are you seeing any like a sort of a brain gain of the diasporas coming back to Nigeria to invest more or to open up businesses there? And how are you finding it? How will it continue to grow? Is it something that Nigerians are looking forward to receiving many of the diasporas coming back or investing in there? Blessing, did you? I think your video is a bit frozen, but
maybe Zainab could answer that if she's seen people coming back.
Okay.
Other people.
The diaspora. You asked about the.
Yes. Are you sort of seeing a brain gain back of diasporas coming back to Nigeria to invest and to start business? Yeah.
Brain drain. Brain gain.
Gain. Yeah.
Yeah, there's always a term like brain drain where the diasporas leave.
Well, yeah, there seems to be everywhere I look. Everyone seems to come back. Everywhere I look, there's always somebody who's just got back or who's been here for 2 years or 3 years, and they're doing things. So, and they're impacting the industries as well. So yes, I think there is brain gain, and seductive as well. It's very attractive in the sense that because of global interest in Africa, all of the fantastic musicians and actors and all of these things, it makes you want to come back. It makes you want to at least come and try or be a part of that. So I think people do come back for that reason and also have ideas about how to offer what can be offered. When you get here and you terrain for what it is, you have that tenacity to stay and to weather the storm. Another question, another thing. But there are also ways of. So yes, there definitely is an influx, and there should be. It's a thing. Maybe we have to. So we that have been here for a while need to sort of find ways. Make it easier for them, or be more supportive. And some people might think, oh, but I didn't have it easy. When I came, I had to find my feet. Some of us are more dexterous than other people. Some of us are more tenacious than other people. So I think that there are definitely ways in which we can support those who have come back in order to easily assimilate into the system, especially if they have something really good to offer. It would be a shame for that to go to waste because they haven't been able to find their feet or something like that.
That's a very good point. Sort of like provide a soft landing for those who are new. Yeah, that's a great point.
Sorry, guys, I don't know what happened. I think internet has done something, but I mean,
welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah. Sort of Zainab answered a little bit on your behalf, but if you have something to maybe contribute to the question.
No, I guess Zainab did a very good job on answering. I know she has been there and she came back, so she can now know the pros and cons and all that. So
great.
I trust that judgment.
Yeah.
I would just like to follow up on Zainab's point. I think about 20 a bit further back, about 15, 20 years ago, when my parents were still in Kenya and I was spending quite a lot of time there, I noticed there was a real buzz, energy amongst the whole populace. I guess youth in a sense. And I kind of, when I've tried to describe it to people back in Finland and other places, it's almost as though, it's almost like a sort of great belief and determination. We don't have to be a poor country anymore. We can do it. We can. It's a real shift in mentality. I really believe that they see that they can actually be on a par with the rest of the world, and it's just going to be like determination and hard work. I really felt that what you were saying, there's a certain energy, and I've noticed actually it's funny because it's not only African. I've noticed that some kind of expatriate UK people are coming to work in Kenya because they feel there's more exciting opportunity there than back home even. So that that resonates with what I've been seeing. Yeah, so we keep Myriam, if you see any questions in the chat, please give me a shout. But I think we're coming to the last 10 minutes, and this is a sort of broad question, and anybody can answer it because we don't actually have any answers on this ourselves. But does anybody? Well, I'll just quickly before I ask the question. It's actually obvious that we had a focus on fashion in this session, and hopefully the local team Nigeria can organize a future session where there can be the great musicians and filmmakers and stuff. But in this context of fashion, does anybody know of any collaborations that are happening or have been happening between the Nordics and Nigeria? And if not, what kind of things could happen? So a very broad question. I don't know if everybody can answer it, but have a go.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know, Myriam.
Okay, so for
sorry.
My thoughts, I had like there was this Nordic summit that happened last year in Lagos, Radisson Blu. I had a conversation with a lady that she was into ethical production, and we thought of finding a way where she can come to Nigeria and use some of the things, maybe fabric, Ebere Achu and all that, to make clothes there in I don't know where she comes from the north, but one of those Nordic country. And for me, I didn't pursue the conversation. I didn't know what happened, but I mean, you know how it can be in Lagos. But for me, what I should be looking at, I will be looking at is probably how, because I know some country there, they are good with technology, how we can explore the option.
I think a connection got lost there as well.
Anybody please step in on the topic in the meantime?
Well, what I was saying, I don't know, Myriam, if you know, but there has been in Helsinki for a couple of years. It didn't, or it wasn't organized probably last year, but for a couple of years there was this African Fashion Week that was organized in Helsinki. I don't know if you have any further information on that. And I know that it's not in Nigeria, but actually they are close to Nigeria. There in Benin, there is this residency place called Villa Caro, where several Finnish artists, designers go every year, and actually many Finnish textile and fabric designers have gotten their inspirations for the fabric designs out of their residency time spent in Benin. So just for the future, that could be something that if there would be even a physical place where to go and, you know, like do the cultural exchange and exchange of skills, that could be something that could help.
Yeah, the African Fashion Show, but I'm not sure yet how it's organized in terms of the Finnish and African collaborations, but that would be something to look into. That's a good point. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that Benin place, Pirjo, because my sister-in-law, she's an author, and she got a sort of scholarship. I don't know what you call it, a scholarship to go residency to go there and write
scholarship.
her book. And I think she thoroughly enjoyed it, appreciated it.
Yeah.
If there's any topics that people have been thinking about that we haven't brought up and would like to mention, then please do. We have a 5 or so minutes to
Well, what I was thinking already previously, what Zainab was talking about, and you asked a question about, you know, why Nigeria, and there is a lot of buzz and interest for Nigeria as being a creative hub in the world. I see some similarities what happened with Korea, because Korea was not a fashion or entertainment or creative hub, you know, at all. But then all of a sudden K-pop and, you know, Korean designers and Korean fashion was and still is, you know, like super interesting to the world. So maybe it's something that, you know, technology allows us to kind of like look into and get more knowledge of. And I'm not saying that French and UK designers are not interesting anymore, but it's kind of like we always have the interest and heart for something that's new and that we haven't explored and understood before, which is, I think, a good side of humanity. So that's something that we need, and this of course fosters the new technology, the capability to see new ways and you know, hubs for fashion and creativity in general.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some West African men's fashion having more of an influence, because Western men's fashion is pretty dull. It's much more vibrant in West Africa.
I just read in some blog that the best dressing guys in the world now come from Nigeria.
Would love to hear that. No one knows anything about, you know, the way they look and their flair and their fashion. So they'll be very happy to have that recognition. Yeah.
I have to dig that blog, write it out somewhere.
Are they the ones who can pull it off? Can other people pull it off? That's the question.
But perhaps then to sort of probe this collaboration a bit further. So with the panelists that we have had here, have you seen ways in which you can do something together? Like maybe another event or another, could we think of hosting something else where we increase the collaboration then between Nigeria and Finland, perhaps, to start with?
I think it's always best from the grassroots level. Now I feel that I at least have some kind of a connection to, you know, Blessing and Zainab and Myriam, you know, you two also being here in Finland. So I mean, like, if there is something, anything like a small detail that I can help you with, you need to have a name or a place to, I don't know, produce, know something, I'm here for you. And I think it always starts from there, you know, and I hope that you feel the same way, that if I need some piece of an information from you guys, you could share it, and I'm free to share all my knowledge.
I'm definitely going to research your brand, Pirjo. I'm definitely interested in Finland now, for example, whereas I haven't really been. So I'm going to go and do some research on that. And then, you know, you're right. It has to be a natural sort of thing. We seem to have some ideas and outlook. So it'll be definitely interesting to see how maybe there is a way that we can collaborate. Maybe that's waiting to happen.
Another brand, Zainab, you can look up is Myriam.
Exactly.
That also Finnish.
Okay.
Has managed to get outside of the Finnish Finland.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And the Minna Parikka, you would love the Minna Parikka bunny shoes.
Yeah, I think once you've had one, that's the beauty of these events, just organizing the process of organizing the events in itself gives you a connection. You can then, as Pirjo was saying, you can utilize this later already, because like Francis is a contact at CC Hub in Nigeria, and just got to know him purely through reaching out from this initiative, and it now feels really natural. I just had a chat with him in WhatsApp, and he recommended some of the panelists today, so I agree. Cool. As Ronnie said there, I think everybody should go and book these one-to-one meetings in the Deal Room platform. But I think this is a perfect place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, everybody. I think it went really nicely. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Great to meet you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
It was nice to be a part of this.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.